Mike, before we started recording, you mentioned something that was killing growth. What was that?
Yeah, our executive leadership was constantly fighting fires or chasing our own tails, looking at back orders instead of the future. And so that was something that we felt we had to change and change right away.
And thank you for sharing. We hear that from owners all the time as the business grows. Today, Mike will also explain how their internal culture is pulling him into the day to day, and that needs to be resolved in the next year. Mike owns Wiley Metal Fabricating. They are a family owned job shop. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me on.
Self made is a myth talks with business owners in the messy middle growth stage where the sales and the team are there, but too much still relies on the owner. I'm Coach Tim Campsall, and if that resonates, this channel is for you. Well, hey, Mike, earlier you talked about the leadership team and fighting fire. And that was killing growth in the business. So walk us through that. What specifically was slowing down the growth?
Yeah, Tim, we were always looking behind us and trying to keep up. And, one of the big things when my grandfather started the business, my dad's still involved as well, but it was constantly, if people weren't getting the right answer, the customers weren't getting the right answer, they were calling my dad or calling me and
Yeah,
trying to get things pushed through. So it was constantly bogging down our shop and not looking at where we needed to go and resources that we needed to allocate to grow the business and get more sales and bigger customers. So we were holding on to our biggest customers and we continue to, but weren't really looking at the future and how we can get more.
yeah.
And we kind of ebb and flowed with our biggest customers. If their business was down, we were down.
Mm,
And so we really started putting a team together and pushing and looking at metrics and analytics and putting together a lot of digital pieces that we could measure where we are and how we could get better.
yeah. So making that change from hands-on fighting fires to growing into the leadership role, you mentioned a couple things that changed, but how'd you actually go about fixing it?
A lot of time, a lot of meetings. Yeah, we're still fighting it, and we still
Mhm.
have some of our long-term customers that think that their word means the most, and it's just constantly looking. So the biggest thing that we've done is been able to digitize all of our floor and almost to the minute. And so we're constantly, I don't want to say minute by minute, but we're trying to monitor our efficiency based off of where we quoted from operator as well as per shift, per machine, and just trying to get everybody on board to look at that instead of looking at the orders and the back orders. I mean, you have to look at back orders. We still look at back orders, but and that kind of dictates when we need to work overtime, right? So
Right.
if we're in a bind and we can't catch up, what do we do? And so we look at that, but we've become a lot more metric analytic based.
Yeah.
By entering all of our orders, we can see our future, we can see what machines
Yeah.
we have in the future that might have some time. And also just by which has been a work in progress for several years, but all of our shop floor level operators work on their salaries based off of work centers that they know. So the more work centers they know how to operate,
Yeah.
the more money they can make, right? So but that also helps us in a sense of if we have a brake press operator, but I've got, a laser operator that's going to be out for 2 or 3 days, I've got a
Right.
backup I can switch over there. And so that has helped. And also one of my pet projects that I've been working on the last couple of years is how to bring in and entice new talent,
Hmm.
and so we're looking younger. So there's headaches with that, but we have started and are working through internship programs and bringing in high school kids to learn the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
And so some of them don't stay, and we're in our second year doing that. And we currently have 6 high school interns on our shop floor that work half a day, but they're learning to run a brake press. They're learning how to, a couple of them are welders. They're going to weld class. So they're getting some light experience in our shop. And so that seems to help because we're bringing in fresh blood in a sense, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're
Indeed.
finding that if they can make a career out of it. And so
Yeah. Fantastic.
I was just saying that one of the things that's helped us is having those guys, because these kids, even though a lot of people say that, oh, they don't, they're young, they don't know what they're doing, but they really push some of my long-term employees because they come in and they feel like they're fighting for a job, right? Like if they really want it. And so they come in and they're out performing some of our long-term employees. And then these guys are like, oh, I better step it up or I'm going to lose my job to this 18-year-old, right? So that seems to have been working as well. And
Yeah.
there's always
Awesome.
headaches with it, but it's new
Sure.
and we're trying it and we're growing
Love it.
that as well.
Love it. So, Mike, thinking back to that messy middle moment when the executive team were fighting fires instead of working on the business, what was the personal cost to you?
Time and just the feeling that myself and everybody else, I mean, I was once in sales, but you're always it's like it's always negative. You never feel like you're going to get ahead.
Mhm.
I was constantly as an outside salesman and at one point running our inside sales team. It was just every time the phone rang, your blood curled because you knew it was another phone call because that was the way we were operating. We were operating in the past and trying to get to as close to zero back orders as we
Yeah.
could, and that was our main goal. And so you're
Right.
constantly fighting those back orders and constantly fighting angry customers or going out and because something was rushed through and parts were wrong. And so
Sure.
everything was always negative.
Yeah.
And so that was hard because every meeting was nobody wanted to attend meetings because they were
Yeah.
never good. So how can we change that, right? How can we by starting to look at the future? And I'm not saying that every meeting's peachy and great now. I
Sure.
mean, we
Sure.
still run into issues and things as well, but there's a lot more of conversations. And I mean, my dad was a component and myself with the sales heart is it's very hard for me or him to say no. And so
Yeah.
having constant meetings and being able to look at the data, it's a lot easier to say, man, that'd be a great job to take on, but we're going to fail. So we can't do it. And so it's kind of been made it easier for some of us, including myself, to
Yeah.
say no to things that we can't do.
Yeah.
And
I love
we've
that.
had
I
to
love that.
a few times. So
Yeah. And I love that the data is now allowing you to make good strategic decisions as opposed to the impulse to want to say yes, but now being able to match that with the data and go, yes, but I can't do it for 2 weeks or I can't do it for right for a bit of time because it's going to kill our system and it's going to bog down the production and therefore the data is allowing you to make better decisions.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
and with
cool.
that being said too, I mean, just recently, as a couple months ago, one of our big customers was on a shutdown for 2 or 3 weeks, and one of our newer customers that we have that's becoming very big had a couple jobs that were able to get us through like nothing happened. We were able to keep our full workforce, and now we're back running at full strength. And this new customer had a job, and we said we just can't do it. They came back and said, we really need you to do it. What if we give you 2 more weeks, right? So because we're
Yeah,
able to say no and we're not falling on our face and we're
yeah,
looking at it's like, hey, I really need you to do this. And so, you know, still now meeting on if we take this, how are we going to do it, and trying to find different resources. Is it bringing in a few more people for the project? Is it bringing in,
that's awesome.
some subcontractors to help us get through it and training them on what we're already doing and what we're assembling? But it before if we would have taken it, we would have been busy where we would something else would have failed. So
Right,
and
right.
we still have that every once in a while. There's still growing pains going through it, but we're trying to learn how to do that.
Love it. Mike, stepping into ownership requires a bit of a leap of faith. And I know this is a multi generation business, but what specifically made you believe that I can do this, even though you didn't have it all figured out yet?
Well, some days I still don't know if I can do it. Um, no, it's just the strong support system around. So not just from my dad and my brother, but also we have a couple other vice presidents that have really stepped up, and they came in as an engineer, or we
Sure.
brought them in to run our shipping and receiving department.
Yeah.
A couple of our leaders started on our floor and have worked their way up over the last 20, 25 years, right? So having that strong support system and being able to understand each other,
Mhm.
and it's taken a long time as we have different opinions and different views, but
Sure.
really we have a strong core that, we'll sit and joke. And one of the things that we've done, and not a lot of companies have, but a lot of our leadership, we sit in a room. I mean, we don't have our own offices where we shut the door. We sit in like a bullpen
Okay. Oh,
from our
wow.
supervisors and everything else. And so all of our desks are sitting in the room together, and so even if we're not on the conversation, we kind of are,
Yeah.
and so then there's not, like, any I don't wanna say there aren't any secrets because we don't really try to do that, but we all kinda work as a team, and we're kind of forced to work as a team as we sit together every day, and we have conversations about golf or hunting, first thing in the morning, so there's a little bit of that personal side of it, and
Right.
over the years where I'm sure all of us have gone home and muttered things about each other over the years, we now have that friendship, and we're calling each other on the weekends, and stuff like that, so there is that going back to that culture, there's that culture there, and I believe it starts from the top down. So by having us kind of coming in as a united front and having those conversations to start, it's easier for us to push that to our floor. And so that's one of the reasons we've done it that way.
Love it. That is very unique. What a
Yeah.
great way to build that culture. So, what's been the biggest surprise, Mike, between what you expected coming into ownership and what it's actually been like?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, growing up around the business with my grandfather being starting it and my dad being in it since I can remember, I was 2 when he came in. So I kinda had a pretty good idea, but the biggest thing that I think I have learned is how conscientious you need to be as raising a family. I have 2 14-year-old twin boys, and putting yourself completely into the business at the same
Mm,
time. So
mm,
I try as hard as I can to be there for as much as I can for my kids. I've coached football for the last 5, 6 years. I'm still coaching rugby. And so that's my opportunity to kind of block that off of my calendar 2, 3 times, 5 times a week
yeah.
and have that bonding time with my kids and my wife on the weekends, and then try to throw myself completely into the work during the day. And, it is a struggle, but it becomes easier the more you try at it, I guess. I
Yes.
mean, I had a
Yes.
conversation the other day that, a lot of things that I'm doing with the youth and the program that we started, and I don't like saying, but like to me now, it feels natural. It feels
Mm,
almost like common sense of what we're doing.
yeah.
Aren't more people doing it?
Yeah.
But then when I stop and look back at all the work and the effort and the meetings and stuff, it's not.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
became that because
Yes.
of figuring out a system and making it work. And some days it doesn't work, but for the most part, overall, I'm able to plan meetings at a certain time. I try to hold all my weekly meetings in the afternoons. My mornings are free for those firefighting moments or moments of, hey, somebody needs to meet with you. I try to keep time blocked off. So it's a constant battle. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned that I didn't know is just how much organization and how much organizing yourself
Hmm.
is needed to be successful.
Yeah. The reality is, and you just alluded to it, right? The business, if we allow it to, can take every waking moment of our time. And so it's super important to have that discipline of structuring personal time and blocking out family time and recharge time. And even during the day, I like what you said, right? Blocking time for meetings versus time for fires, because fires will come up. And if we don't have, right, we don't have the time on the calendar, then it's going to have to take from something else. So
Yeah.
having that structured approach and discipline, and you're right, it doesn't just happen overnight. We've got to, learn ourselves and train ourselves into it, and right, train and teach our employees to respect our calendar, and teach ourselves to follow our calendar. But then, right, once we've got a rhythm and a routine, the balances comes more easily than right just trying to make it work.
Yep. Yeah.
So, Mike, earlier I mentioned that culture is something that keeps pulling you back into the day to day. So, give us a little bit more context of what's happening and how is it affecting you?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I was in sales, and then about 5 years ago, we decided to really push culture internally and externally, and I was brought in to be the, I guess, culture guy, but vice president of culture and leadership development, and so that's kinda been my main focus and main job. There's a lot of things that I've done that now to make the culture just I don't wanna say just work because you always have to work at it, and it's just a constant thing we're trying to make better, but just those cultural things of, you know, of everybody getting along shift to shift,
Mm.
rather than blaming each other, why don't we work together? And there's always these little riffs, little arguments or whatever between people. And we're trying to make it to where it's an open culture. Everybody is equal. We try to stay away from using the word employee and, you know, boss, or we use leader, and frontline leaders and team members is what we usually use. And so sometimes, and so it's just a constant battle to, as new people come in and then I'm being pulled in, because if anything goes wrong or anybody feels like
Right.
they were wronged, I'm being
Yeah.
pulled back into it. And even though that isn't my main title, I always say that culture is never perfect. It's perfect-ish.
Yeah.
So it's always changing and it's always trying to improve internally and externally. And so it makes it hard when I'm also trying to promote and push our company externally to our community as well, and then I'm being pulled back in because of something internally that's not going
Right.
correctly. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just a constant, and we've seen a lot of changes in our team members on the floor, and a lot of people that are now buying into the whole culture thing. But there's always those things that pull you back in, where it's like, okay, we've worked on this for 3 years, but now I've got to go back and refresh everybody of,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
this doesn't work, or I've got to sit in a meeting about somebody not coming to work. And we're going to have a sit down meeting, and they want me to sit in there to make sure that the language and what we're trying to tell the team members what we want them to receive, right? So, hopefully eventually is getting everybody to understand, and I don't have to be there as much. But we're still at the point, as we've only been doing it for about 5 years, that I get pulled into some of that, and then it's easy to get pulled into it for like days at a time, right? So it could
Yeah.
start with one incident, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's,
Yeah.
hey, while you're here, we've got this and this and this that we need to go. And so then you're getting pulled into it's important, but it's also simple enough to where, as we're trying to train everybody up to be on the same page, that there's still that being pulled back into it. And most days it feels like we're taking 2 steps forward. There's some of those days where it feels like we're taking 2 or 3 back.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
that's the biggest struggle.
So, Mike, if the you getting pulled back in for every culture issue doesn't change, what does that cost the business? If you keep getting pulled in instead of being able to do your other work,
Yeah,
what's
I
the
mean,
impact?
it costs growth, right? It costs innovation in the sense, as I mentioned, as far as programs, how we're recruiting right now is the big one, as I mentioned, with high school kids and the local Ivy Tech branch, trying to find new ways to find, talent that's out there, rather than bringing people in that are looking for a job, I guess, and not necessarily looking for a career in manufacturing, but they need a job. So how do we find those people that want to make this a career, or
Right.
think they want to make it a career until they get into it? But at least we're finding more. And so by pulling back in and not being able to be part of some of that innovative thinking of how we're bringing in new talent, as well as new ways, new programs. I mean, I'm in my 3rd year of my leadership development program. And so that's an internal program, and so trying to build that and trying, as well, so to make it as effective as possible to find our next leaders that we already have in the company. And so those are things that I try to spend a lot of time on, but when I'm getting pulled back, then all that gets put on the back burner in a sense. And so really it's just, innovation and growing the business in a way of how can we grow our team members internally, and how can we grow and find that those next people to be around for another 40 plus years that we already are. And so that's kind of where our sights are now, is how can we grow that?
Yeah. It's a constant tension between the focusing on what I should be focusing on strategically and getting pulled back into the things that I'm really good at that I used to be responsible for, but now somebody else should be responsible for it. But it's easier to just ask me, right? Because I've been doing it and have the expertise. So I certainly can appreciate, right, that balance between the focusing on the future and the growth, but also, hey, there's some things that I'm a subject matter expert on, and people tap into me, and figuring out my replacement that they can tap into instead of continuing to tap into me.
Yep, that's yes, and that's the truth. And now I've taken on like safety, and safety is a big thing. And it's easy to go down that rabbit hole of safety and get caught up in that as well. But I'm learning it. I was not educated to be a safety person, and so a lot of it is I'm trying to spend time on things like that to continuous improvement, safety. How can I grow in these areas? And so being pulled back into the things that I've been doing for years
Yes.
stunts the growth of that, which at this point stunts the growth in those areas for the company as I'm the one in charge of it right now. And so I'm learning. Luckily, I've got a great support system of a couple volunteer firefighters that work for us and
Great.
one
Yeah.
guy that's helped with the sheriff's department and things that are really good with the safety side that I've kind of leaned on them a lot to help. But as we're going through all the things and changes we're making safety wise, being pulled back in kind of takes me away from that as well. And to me, that's an important part of us growing as well, is really concentrating on the safety side of it
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
we can innovate and find new ways to make our campuses and our business safe as well. So,
Yeah. So it's just a continual improvement in terms of being able to say no and not get pulled back into some of those things, finding the right people to be able to be the go-to person instead of yourself. Yeah, good lessons. I appreciate you sharing. So speaking of lessons, like what lesson do you wish that you had learned sooner, and what did not knowing that cost you?
well, the biggest thing would probably be going back to the learning the data and how to run the business based off of data and analytics and all of that instead of firefighting. I mean, for years, and my dad always said that he could tell if we were busy or not by a gut feel and walking out on the shop floor of how busy the shop floor is. And that's kind of the way we ran business for years. And so now being able to have all these systems in place, being able to look at all this different data, look at our customers, where they're trending, a month or 2 months before. I wish I would have known how to do that. I wish we would have learned that earlier. And we're still trying to make it innovate it and try to make it even more comprehensive as we keep going. But it's that's one thing that when I came into the business to start, that's not the way we ran. And so we were all kind of learning together. And so if there was a way for me to have learned how to run the business more off of the hard numbers and what everything, the trends and things like that. And that's, like I said, that's where we're going now. But the lesson was the hardest thing through all that was we have so many people here that have been here for, 10 plus years, 20 plus years, and they were used to doing it one way.
Yes.
And now retraining everybody to, don't look at because you got 5 phone calls from this customer on this one part. Look at where we are, look at the numbers, look at the
Yes.
data. We put some of these homegrown things together, programs and stuff like, and now we're much better and the conversation has switched from I need this part right away of where can we fit this in? And there's still those days. Just yesterday, we had 3 parts, that were late. And so I had to jump in the truck and drive it up to about an hour away in Fort Wayne in Decatur, just south of Fort Wayne. But because they had to have them yesterday. And so it still happens. But when you're talking about, 75 parts, 3 part numbers compared to a truckload,
Right. Yeah.
and that's the first time I've had to do that for a while. So it
Awesome.
still happens every once in a while, but
Sure.
being able to look at the data and then also looking at what the customer's demand is and try to fit things in where they fit, it's working on a lot more consistent basis. Trying to find ways to run our machines. We've been working for about 4 months of trying to run tooling lists on our brake presses. So all of our parts are grouped with the like tooling. So our guys don't have
Mm.
to switch out tools, all the time. And so trying to find those ways to operate more efficiently. And it's just a constant change in what we're doing, but being able to look at
That
the
you've
numbers and stuff. So
yeah, I love that you're focusing on the numbers and measuring, and because, if we don't know our numbers, we don't know our business. Typically what gets measured gets done. So great job in terms of having that data. In your journey, Mike, when you felt stuck or overwhelmed, tell us how trying to figure it out on your own held you back, and what changed when you brought in outside perspectives.
well, first thing is I lost a lot of sleep. Um, yeah, because I've always been the type of person that people pleaser in a sense, and when something went wrong or I felt like somebody was mad, I would What did I do wrong? How can I change it? And I would
Mm,
beat myself up all the time. And so, not saying that I don't do that, but I've kind of learned to lean on my team and lean on these guys that are there for me. And as I've kind of proved myself and my brother as well, where it went from why are you doing this? We're here to make money.
yeah,
We don't feel there was more of a fight with some of the leadership to where now we have each other's back. And if I'm not doing something they believe in, they're going to pull me aside and say, "Hey, why don't we do this way?" Or they're bringing more. It's more constructive criticism, and like I said before, we all sit together. We're
yeah,
working as a team, and so it's more of they want to see all of us succeed,
yeah,
and they're gonna bring us up as well as being, the owner's sons and the 3rd generation and where now they're behind us, and so it makes it much easier because if I've gotta be out of the office for a couple days to go to a summit or go to a conference or whatever, I know that I have they have my back, and if something goes wrong where I need to get pulled in, they're gonna get a hold of me, but most of the time they're handling it. And my dad's over 70 and he still comes in and helps when he can, but he's going to Florida more, he's out more. And so I couldn't imagine doing it without them. And when I did try, it was not working very well and I was losing a lot of sleep. So just having that communication and open communication and having a team you can trust that will work well together. So
love it,
is the
love it. Yeah,
biggest thing. And it makes me sleep a lot better nights now too.
that's
So
good.
yeah.
Mike, what's one mistake that owners make when they're in this messy middle growth stage that keeps them stuck in the day to day longer than necessary?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I would say, because I've seen it from my dad and I've been victim of it as well as my brother, as well, is feeling that it won't get done without you.
Mm,
You know, that you have to be the answer person. Everything has to run through you. Like I said before, trusting the team and knowing that you have a team you can trust helps a lot. If you have to do it all, I mean, we've operated where everybody felt like they could go to my dad. There was a period of time where if I didn't give them an answer they liked, they're hanging up the phone with me and they're calling a cell phone. And so I think now
yeah,
him as well as all of us are like we're all on the same page, but not feeling that I have to be there all the time and that everybody has
yeah,
the whole team
fantastic.
has the same interest and the same mission statement that we're trying to live every day and core values that we've came up with that we're all together as a team and the end goal is the same for all of us and we're all going to work together. I mean, that's the biggest thing is I still, with some of the programs that I've started, even I struggle with giving up the
Yeah.
control. And then when I'm gone and I'm like, okay, I need you guys to do this. And then it doesn't happen. I'm like, oh man, now I'm getting sucked back into it again. But it's just that trial and error and continual coaching
Yes.
of the staff to get them up because we all make mistakes. I make mistakes. I probably made a couple mistakes during this, but as that happens is learning from it and using it as a teaching moment to teach other people rather than trying to take back over again and jumping back in the middle of it. That's the biggest mistake in my mind.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. We know self-made is a myth, Mike. So who are the three people that um, you wouldn't have achieved the level of success that you have without them? And so who are the three people and how'd they help you?
Yeah, well, my dad for sure, just, all those years of I still work with him every day of why you dress like that and make sure, why are you wearing those old tennis shoes and going on a sales call.
Yeah.
But really, that outward pride and showing that outward pride and being proud of what our family has built and where we are today is a big thing. I would also say, my wife has been a big supporter of what we do. She's been with me we've been married for almost 17 years. So she's been with me through the thick and thin of the business and
Yeah.
the nights where I'm gone for 2 or 3 days or I've got to, drive into the office at 11 o'clock at night to whether it be have a conversation with our second shift,
Yeah.
or getting those phone calls from those customers on a Saturday morning at,
Sure.
6 o'clock in the morning of why are my parts not here? And just understanding of where the business can go and,
Yeah.
also being behind me to support me, I mean, my mom was a school teacher, so she helped me with that side of it. And then I also have Ryan McCarty, who has been a close family friend for years, and he's kind of come on as my life coach, I guess, in a sense, and professional coach. And I've been talking with him and partnered with some things with him as well. But he's always there for a phone call of, hey, this happened. I mean, the first time I did ran a community service event, I was like, I don't think anybody's going to show. I'm calling them in the car, and I had 60 people show up for that event. He was able to talk me down, and he still is able to
Yeah.
talk to me and tell me
Yeah.
what I'm doing. So yeah, those are probably the people at this point that have influenced me the most.
Sounds like you've had some pretty important people in your life who have blessed you along the way and helped you with the business. If they were all here today, Mike, what would you want to say to them?
Yeah, thanks for being there for me, and thanks for building me to where I am now. I wouldn't be where I am now and growing continuously, I feel every day, if it wasn't for all your help.
Mike, I appreciate you sharing your story today.
Yes, thank you.
If you're stuck in the messy middle, there's a way through it and you don't have to figure it out on your own. Our 2-week coaching trial helps you to get clear on what needs to change and how. The link is in the description. And if this conversation resonated, like it, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss our next show. I'll see you all next time.